Hello, it's Firma Villegas again, and I'm back to discuss my measure phase of my 2021 MSGP Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan training project under the Pre-Management Development Program with the City of Albuquerque. To review, in my defined phase, I explained the background behind the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan training and how it stemmed from the EPA agency and ultimately moved down the chain to the 2021 Multi-Sector General Permit, or the MSGP, as the main industrial regulatory driver behind the Clean Water Act of 1972. Currently, under the MSGP permit, only the City of Albuquerque has jurisdictional authority to enforce it, so therefore we have to start our enforcement efforts here in our own backyard. The scope of my project is to include the training of all employees under the permit, which involves 36 current facilities with 2 more being under review, and to have those employees completely trained and on a yearly schedule within 3 years of the start of the project. Additionally, this project will have 3 goals, 1 for each year. In the first year, I'd like to have at least 60% of my targeted employees doing their training online. After the second year, at least 80%, and the third year to have all 100% of the employees completing their SWPPP training online. This project will not include the training of temporary employees. Here is my as-is process map. This shows 3 lines of tracking because we were in the middle of SWPPP training when the pandemic hit, and therefore it had to modify how we presented the training. In order to determine if SWPPP training is required of a facility, we have to look at the SIC code provided to the facility by the state of New Mexico. This SIC code determines the scope of activities that the facility performs. If the code does not fall under the MSGP, then the facility does not have to have SWPPP training, and we move on. If the facility's code is under the MSGP, then, like the 38 of our city facilities, they will require training. Before COVID, the stormwater team used to create a PowerPoint presentation and provide a class for 1 or 2 of the facility's upper-level employees. We called this Train the Trainer. They were supposed to go back and train all the rest of the staff. One problem with this is we never knew if they trained everyone, and there was not a way to track it. After COVID, we still created a PowerPoint presentation, but we contacted the Employee Learning Center and put our presentation online. Again, only a few from each facility were invited to be trained, and we also asked them to either proctor a class with their staff or to have the staff take the training directly online. We were able to track this a bit better, but still only a few of the staff took this SWPPP training online. As stated in the as-is map, historically the SWPPP training was done in person with the Train the Trainer seminar, in which only a few were trained and were expected to return to their sites to train the rest of their staff. Before 2020, the Stormwater Division contracted out with CDM Smith to create the presentation and provide seminars. Not only was this ineffective, it was also very costly to the department. And as you can see, it ate up upwards of $30,000. For my current data, I created a survey that asked how many of each series employees reported to work at each of the facilities. In the survey, I also asked if there were training specialists I could contact in their departments and if they had any common computer terminals that everyone can use. The results of the survey were considerably successful, and only 2 facilities remain outstanding in their responses. From the survey, I created a spreadsheet and a chart for ease of viewing and manipulation of the data. The facilities with the most employees that need to be trained is transit and solid waste, with parks management and streets coming in at a close third. I used my current data and compared it to the previous year's data to determine how many of the employees were actually trained in SWPPP. Out of the over 700 city employees that will require SWPPP training, only about 99 of them were actually trained in 2020. I also utilized my data to compare costs from the previous years when CDM Smith was creating the training to my current data on how many hours it took everyone on the stormwater team to create the presentation. And using those hours with the salary found online, the cost for the 2021 SWIP training was over $20,000 less to produce in-house as opposed to contracting out the task. Further review of costs led me to review the EPA fines and penalties associated with non-compliance of the MSGP. Since the city is aware of the issue, it will fall under the knowing violation. However, we can also be found negligent if we continue to not get all necessary employees trained in SWIP. This has the potential to become a huge issue, and I'm hoping my project will be a solution that will have a long-term effect on the problem. This concludes my presentation for my measure phase of my PMDP project. I want to thank you for your time and have a great day.